Today we have in a 2005 F450 with a 6.0 diesel. Truck is having injector problems from what I was told, so we're gonna go ahead and pull the codes and see what we got. Okay, here's our very long list of codes here. I do see the cylinder 3 injector code. So these two, whenever you do have a bad injector, they typically do kind of run together. Definitely did sound like it was missing on a cylinder. So on the power balance, we can definitely see that cylinder 3 is dragging it down, so I'm pretty confident that the injector is going to be bad on this one. We want our power balance to look like a nice straight line straight across the board. Whenever you have one dragging it down or multiple dragging it down, that's not good at all. As you can tell, we're just misfiring heavily. So with this specific truck, wow, that's new. Never seen the battery cable routed that way. But anyways, we are going to be doing cylinder 3, and cylinder 3 is on the passenger side. So this is going to be a video on how to take apart the passenger side. First step is going to be to remove this intercooler pipe. So we're just going to take off the 11 at the turbo, and then there is also another 11 straight down here, this one right here. I got mine loose. After that, pull it off the turbo, and then you can work it off the bottom. Easy, just like that. Get that out of there. Next, we're gonna have some brackets and things. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull off this glow plug module right here. This is held on by, well, this one's actually not held on by anything. I'm just gonna unplug this, get this out of the way, unplug this. This is our ICP sensor. I'm gonna get that out of the way. And then, so I got this hose flipped up here, and I have a little cap. You could just use any little rubber cap just to cap this off so we don't get any coolant dripping into our area here. So next, what I'm gonna do is just grab this harness. I'm gonna disconnect this from the battery actually, and then I'm going to grab this harness, and then I'm going to flip this entire wiring harness up on top so the wiring harness is completely out of our way, just like that, just so it's out of our way and we do not have to worry about that. Now next, what we're going to do is go ahead and disconnect this. This is going to be our glow plug harness, and then you just pull it off these tabs. Now we got our glow plug harness just hanging here. We can kind of tuck that down here so that's out of our way. Now we're gonna have 10s holding this bracket on. Now once you get those bolts off, we can just grab this bracket and it just comes straight off. There we go. Next, we're gonna have the transmission dipstick tube that's held on by one 10mm. Pick it up, kind of shimmy it forward, and then it'll just drop straight down out of our way. Now we're gonna have the valve cover. This is going to be a lot of 12s. The hardest ones to get are the ones back here. I'll show you how I get them. The rest are fairly simple, but we're gonna start with that. Now for these 3 valve cover bolts on the bottom, the easiest way to do it is just get a wrench and kind of just put your arm down here just like this, and you can kind of reach them all. The back one is pretty tricky, but you can get them with a wrench, not too bad. Now once you have all the valve cover bolts out, you're just gonna pick up the valve cover just like this, and it will slide right out of here. So here's our oil rail, and we're going to be using a 12 Allen. So sizes may vary depending on your model or whatever, but yeah, most of the time it's going to be a 12. So this is going to be a dummy plug. This is a dummy plug right here, and that is going to be a standpipe tube. I always start by pulling this one out first. Make sure you got some blue towels or rags ready to go, because these are gonna have oil all over them. So yeah, we're gonna pull that out. Here is our dummy plug. I want to make sure that these O-rings are good, in good condition. Otherwise, if you do have a flat spot or if it's ripped somewhere, then you will definitely have starting problems. So before you install this again, make sure that those are in good condition. I recommend just to replace them, but if you're going on the cheaper side and are balling on a budget, just make sure these O-rings are good. Otherwise, you will need another dummy plug. Now it's going to be for the same for this standpipe tube back here. We're going to pull that out. That's also going to be a 12. Now this is going to be our standpipe tube, and this one did come out in 2 pieces. Sometimes it will come out in 1 big piece. If that's the case, then you just have to loosen that up, and then you can pull the standpipe tube off with the oil rail. What we're going to be doing is pulling this oil rail off. So what you're going to want to do is grab a Torx and start taking them both off. These Torxes are located all along the fuel rail, so there's one right here, one. There is going to be about a lot of them. I don't know exactly how many there is, but there is quite a bit. So these are going to be T30s. We're going to pull all those off. I'll count and see how many there is, but yeah, that's the next step. I did get all 9 bolts out if I counted correctly. And if you're having problems with these back 2 on the bottom side, you're gonna have to go ahead and get a contraption like this and get them off. Not too bad, but yeah. So anyways, after you get all those off, we can go ahead and simply grab this oil rail, give it a nice pull up, and it will come free. Now, whenever you do pull this out, it's going to pour oil. So you got to do this with 2 hands. You're going to grab the oil rail and flip it upwards and then out. Otherwise, you will have an oil mess. So that's what I'm going to do now. Get that out. Ladies and gentlemen, now finally, we do have our injectors. So these are all of our injectors right here. The bad one for us is cylinder 3, so that is going to be the second one back. So 1, 2, this guy right here, we're going to go ahead and remove that. That is going to be held on by a T40, and we're going to have to unplug the electrical connection. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. What you're going to want to do, be very careful with this clip, because these clips, they do break and they do fly around. So you're going to want to be very careful. Yeah, it's pretty much like being a doctor. So as you can see, I got my screwdriver right here in between this thing. So I'm just going to give it a little, just a little thing, little. Holy shit. That's exactly what you don't want to do. But I do see it, so it's right here. You see, that could end up very badly, because that could go ahead and drop in your valves, and then you'll get a strange tick, and then your motor will blow up, and that's not what you want to happen. So make sure you do not lose this, because that is very important. After that, you can go ahead and grab that plug, and it pulls straight up, nice and easy. Okay, so as you can see, mine did come out. What I did was get an 18mm deep well socket, and what you're going to do is just go ahead and put this on the connector, and then you're just going to push it down, and that is how we get our connector out. So we can go ahead and grab that. There is a T40 that's going to be located right here. I'm going to show you this on this first injector because it's easier to see. So what we're going to do is pull that T40 out, and then that is exactly what's holding our injector in. This is our injector hold down. This is kind of hard to capture on camera, but if we do take a good close look at this, we can see that the tip of this injector is absolutely fried up and caked with just material. Another thing I wanted to mention was the brand of an injector. So whenever you're choosing injectors, which brand to buy, unless you're doing something crazy like KC turbo stage 2 whatever, you know, performance, OEM is the way and the only way. You will most likely have problems with aftermarket injectors such as Dorman or whatever. Always run OEM injectors, just because the other ones have a lot of issues and I've ran into a lot of problems. So I will only put OEM injectors on these engines just because of that reason. It just seems like every other injector is just junk. So I would highly recommend going with the OEM injector. Also, one more thing I wanted to add, before you stick this in the hole, you're going to want to lube her up. Just saying. Oil around these O-rings right here. Yeah, and after that we're going to be ready to go back in. This is an injector hold on, and there is a slot right here, and this slot actually goes inside of the injector right here. So we're just going to stick this in the hole just like this, and then we can start it and it'll go in nice and easy. Alright, that's what our new injector looks like installed. Now we're going to have to go ahead and torque that down. We're going to torque that to 24 foot-pounds. Now after you get that torque down to 25 foot-pounds, we are going to go ahead and put this harness back up in there. After you hear it clip, you should be good to go, and you can kind of tell when it's fully seated in there and when it's not. That should be what it looks like. And now we are ready to go back on with our oil rail. Got the oil rail back on. Now I'm going to go on with the bolts. Now I do have everything started. I have the dummy plug started, standpipe tube started, as well as all of the oil rail bolts. So what we're going to do is go ahead and tighten these down. These have to be tightened down to 96 inch-pounds or 8 foot-pounds, and that's going to be these oil rail bolts. For the standpipe tube and the dummy plug, that is going to be 60 foot-pounds for the both of them. And then after that, we will be good to slap the valve cover back on, and we will be rocking and rolling here shortly. Now I do got everything torqued to spec and we are looking good. So the next thing you're going to want to do is grab your valve cover gasket. I'm going to clean this one because it is full of dirt. So I'm going to give this a quick wash down, and then we're going to slap this back on, and then we're going to get our valve cover, put that back on, and then we can tighten up our valve cover, and then we will move on to the next step. Now I do have the valve cover all the way fully tight, and for the next step, what we are going to do is one of the more important steps. You could do this first, but I'm confident in my plugging in abilities before you put in the valve cover I was talking about. Because if you don't have that injector harness all the way in, then you can poke it back through and you would have to actually pull the valve cover back off, which would not be too fun. But anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and plug this injector in. So you do that by pushing the harness down, just like so. We're gonna get our clip that I almost dropped in the engine earlier, and then we are just going to put the clip back on that connector. For the next step, I would recommend putting the dipstick tube. I should have brought my light under here so you could see a little bit better, but all we're gonna do down here is just take this dipstick tube and stick it back in the hole. So now we just grab the dipstick tube and slide it on the stud. The bracket put back on, we're gonna put all the 10s back up, and then we can flip our wiring harness down, put our wiring together, and then last but not least, we are going to have the intercooler. Now I do got everything tightened back up. I got our glow plug harness routed back up top, dipstick tube back in, brackets tightened up. So now with this cat hose, we can see that it is absolutely filthy. So you're gonna want to clean the inside of this with brake cleaner and a blue towel or a rag. Same with the side. You just do not want any dirt on this mating surface at all. Otherwise, if you do have oil or some type of contaminant in there, then it can blow out and you can lose boost that way. We do got everything put back together, and we have no missing bolts, which is always a good thing. So we're gonna go ahead, clear the codes, and fire it up. Now, one thing I want to say before you guys do fire it up, it is going to crank for a while because that high pressure oil rail is completely empty of oil. So it's gonna crank for a while. It'll be like a solid 45 seconds to a minute of cranking. Now if we look at our power balance now, it is a straight line, so that is exactly what we want to see. Much better than before whenever we had that dip in cylinder 3. So this is good. Now I'm going to let it run for a while, let it work that air out of its system, because there is air in the high pressure oil system still. So it might take a couple times to, you know, get the starting back to wherever it starts up instantly, but this is a whole lot better, and I love to see this. Now that is how you successfully change an injector on a 2005 Ford 6.0 Powerstroke. Nice and easy. Yeah, thank you guys for watching.